This is the last podcast we are ever going to do before the secret police pick us up and we're never heard from again.
And you know what? It's long overdue, frankly.
Welcome to VCR, Vintage Cinema Rewind. We're bringing old movies to new viewers. I'm Blake.
And Blake, question for you.
Yes.
Are we going to pronounce this as Z or Z?
Ooh, this is a great thing to get out the way. We're going Z.
Z?
Yeah,
okay,
100%.
perfect.
That's very Canadian. Z, I think, is the American way to say the letter.
I think you have it backwards. I think Z is Canadian.
What?
American is Z.
No.
I think that's what it is.
In France, it's Z.
Is Okay. So today we're covering the 1969 movie Z.
Yeah, we're doing the 1968 political thriller Z, French-Algerian movie. Another French-Algerian political thriller for us. However, I would debate this is maybe one of the best movies we've ever done on this podcast.
It's certainly better than the last French-Algerian. You know, when I first saw this movie and I saw it was another French-Algerian political thriller, I was like, fuck, it's another Blake movie. And I will say, yes, it is certainly a Blake movie, but I did enjoy it more than the Battle of Algiers.
Yeah, this is a very, very cool movie. I'm really excited to talk about it. It's somewhat topical now. It's almost mind-blowing. I sent you the meme of like the Tim and Eric show where he's doing the mind-blowing thing because it's kind of mind-blowing like how relevant almost 60 years later this movie still is and how scary that is.
Yeah, it's more on that later, but partway into the movie I was like, I can see why Blake wants to watch this movie.
Yeah.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Absolutely. That being said, why don't we just hop right into the plot? Oh, I guess before we talk about plot, why don't we just say the other reason why we picked this movie is because this is part of our Oscar series. What I kind of wanted to mention in relation to that is that this movie actually shares something really unique and cool with Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and that's that this movie was nominated for Best Picture as well as Best Foreign Film. So it's actually the first movie ever to be nominated for both of the Best Picture, essentially, nominations.
It double dipped, huh?
Yeah.
Perfect.
There's like maybe 7-8 movies in history that did that, and this is actually the first. So yeah.
Interesting.
Also, I believe the first or second movie of a foreign language to be nominated for Best Picture.
Okay, cool
piece of history. I'm really, really looking forward to talking about this one. So why don't we just do a quick plot summary?
Yeah, let's do it. So basically, maybe we should say that somewhat similar to the Battle of Algiers, this really is kind of a like cast of thousands type movie where there's a lot of different characters.
I see what you mean.
And there's a lot of moving parts,
yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. However, one of the reasons I bounced off the Battle of Algiers is that there weren't a whole lot of recurring characters that I could really attach myself to.
Right.
There was a main guy, but like only barely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This movie, though, it seems to have more of a focus on the characters.
A hyper focus on some of the characters in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually think that part of what makes this movie so interesting is it because it cares about the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And more on that later. So basically, we are in quote unquote. They don't actually come out and say Greece, but we're essentially in Greece, right? And basically, there's a pseudo-totalitarian regime lording over everybody, comparing political dissidents to like bacteria and mildew.
That needs to be eradicated. Et cetera, et cetera.
Basically, what really kicks off the action is there's a prominent left-wing politician just known as the Deputy who comes to give a talk about the bomb, essentially, right?
Yep.
On his way out, he is clubbed in the back of the head by a bunch of yahoos on pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly everything kind of erupts from there, right? Like the government tries claiming that it was just a hit and run and this was, just an unfortunate accident. But there were witnesses and people pretty quickly point out that the regime itself is responsible. So then it kind of becomes like a battle to sort of prove their guilt. And there's a lot of different characters kind of floating around. There's like a journalist who is not nearly as subtle as he thinks he is, like constantly taking pictures of everything.
He's kind of maybe the first Nightcrawler.
Kind of, yeah. Right. And then also later on, there's just kind of, I guess you could say maybe the main character is the magistrate type who's sort of just investigating everything.
Yeah, he's kind of like the lawyer who's trying to break down the facts of the case and get to the bottom of who actually killed this guy and why he was killed. I will say this movie starts off with a title card that says any similarity to real persons and events is not coincidental. It is
It's
intentional.
deliberate. Yeah.
Yes, which is one of like the craziest openers that I've ever seen in a movie, because you instantly know that this movie is charged, and it kind of like it almost like pushes you to start. It's like, hey, wake up. Like we're about to go on an adventure together here.
And it almost kind of remind me of that episode of South Park where Stan screams at the Scientologists, like, go on, sue me, right? That's kind of the energy I was getting.
Yeah, to kind of even bounce on that as well, like the energy of this movie is incredible. Like this movie is so propulsive. The camera work is phenomenal. It kind of just sucks you in instantly, and it doesn't let you off the ride until the very end. It is really, really well paced.
I will also say that similar to the Battle of Algiers, it's sort of shot like a documentary.
Yeah.
However, there are a few moments where it kind of leans into this kind of like stylization.
Mm-hmm.
There's one moment where a certain seedy character gets off scot-free with something.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like, there's sort of like a guitar riff going off, or like a kind of like a rock power ballad as he like skips off.
Yeah.
Realizing that he got away with a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? There's different moments where they play with the chronology a little bit, and I'm like, oh, okay, interesting, right?
Yeah, this
Like,
movie is doing a lot.
yeah, which, you know, I admired that it wasn't afraid to just sort of lean into the strengths of the medium.
It really honestly feels ahead of its time in the camera work, and like you said, like some of the cuts, some of the way that the score is used within it. I think honestly, the only reason why this movie isn't considered like an out-and-out masterpiece that everybody has seen is just because it's not in English. Like I literally think that if this movie was made today and it was in English, like everybody would be talking about it.
You could almost say that, like, if anybody ever wanted to remake this movie, now's the flippin' time.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
Yeah, more on that later.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, like it's a fictionalized account, and fictionalized in like the heaviest of air quotes, about the assassination of a Greek democratic leader in the 60s, and then how they kind of spun out into a far right theocratic regime essentially for a number of years after that.
Yeah, like I didn't again, maybe we've talked before about how we actually, here in the West, we often don't know what's going on, but I didn't realize that Greek was under a totalitarian right-wing control for like 8 solid years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. And I honestly, and I think that's why this movie partially holds up, is because this movie is also somewhat about the fragility of democracy, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to be a little political in this one.
Yeah.
There's just no way to not be political, but something that's kind of maybe really relevant or really resonated with people in the last couple of months is our political leader, Mark Carney's speech that he did recently, where he basically like said, hey, you know, like all these political norms that we've had over the last like 80 years or however long it's been since World War II, it's time to just all admit that those are just like guidelines more than anything, and like the most powerful people in the room don't even bother to follow them anyway. So
yeah,
we need to start thinking about like what comes next and like how to prepare for that.
Well, and not to bury the lead, but this movie does quite aptly tackle the question of like, what do you do when your opponents won't play by the rules?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you like bring someone to justice who just straight up can change the rules at a whim?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's really hard. And this movie is, just thinking about it now in terms of maybe its anger and aggression, like the closest movie that I can think of recent is like The Substance, where it's just like it's really in your face about what it's telling you, and it feels, maybe that's why I like it so much, honestly, is because I really feel the director leaning out of the screen and punching me in the face.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, certainly, you know, especially nowadays where, you know, in this age of AI slop, seeing something made from passion, even let's say dark passion,
yeah,
is really inspiring, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I particularly enjoyed that first scene where the general stands up. By the way, brilliant casting on the fascists, right?
Yeah.
They're all a bunch of old, grubby-looking men
Yep.
with like mustaches, and like they're all balding because, as we know, everyone who's balding is secretly evil. But his big speech about like eradicating. Again, he straight up compares political dissidents to like a bacteria and how they must all be eradicated for the good of the body. I was like, I was sitting there on my couch and I was like, are we starting this movie with a villain monologue? Because
Yeah.
like I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah,
right?
it's so cool. And
Yeah.
you know what? Even on that note as well, like one of the many highlights that we'll be talking about in this movie is how tightly written it is, how smart of a script this is. Like, I have so many things that I want to dissect about this movie, and like things that I picked up when I was watching, and I was like, wow, like things really don't change.
Wow, I'm depressed and angry too.
Yeah.
I'll also say one thing I did want to mention too is that this movie does have a real wit about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's funny.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting it to be so funny.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's just got everything. It's just it. Like I said, I think this is a masterpiece. I'm so excited to talk about it.
again, to compare it to the Battle of Algiers, I personally found that movie a little just like dry and like impersonal and a little clinical even.
Yep.
This one really has, like, you're right, like a propulsive energy to it.
Yeah, who this movie is for doesn't hold up to a modern day watch. I don't know that I can think of a movie from the 60s that holds up better than this. Like, I actually think this movie holds up better than another movie that was nominated for Best Picture this year, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I actually think this movie holds up better than Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That's insane.
Wow. I don't know that I'll agree with that, but
There's a part in Butch Cassidy when they have like this silly like bike riding, and it's like,
raindrops
Yeah.
keep falling. Well, we rode bikes when we were kids. Come on.
no, I genuinely think that this movie is like so energetically filmed that it's really, really hard to say that it doesn't hold up.
I will agree that tonally and structurally it's quite modern, and also, and again, it's so depressing to be saying this, but like it is almost kind of like almost if I were teaching like a political theory course right now, I'd play this movie just to be like, this is this is what happens, everybody.
Well, and like this isn't new. This isn't new to the human experience, right? Like this is why democracy exists, and this is why we have to protect it, because as soon as you start letting people who don't play by the rules gain this kind of power, then all bets are off. Like, how do you stop this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we clearly have a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and here's the other thing that I'll say is I see this all the time online. People are like, oh, we're living in idiocracy. We're living in idiocracy. And I've seen that movie, and it's okay. Like, it's nowhere near my favorite Mike Judge movie. And I am a pretty big Mike Judge guy.
Office Space is a classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fucking fight me.
I think that there's some idiocracy to kind of saying what our world is like is idiocracy, because I think that movie is like a little too silly, and it actually, I think, doesn't give people actually credit enough for some of the horrible, heinous things that happen. This movie is what happens when we go down this dark path.
Also, saying we're an idiocracy, there's something almost a little like nihilistic about it, in the sense that like we're all so fucking stupid anyway, so who cares? Right?
Yeah.
Whereas this movie is, I almost wanted to be like taking notes, like, okay, this is what the bad guys do.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they do. So
characters people you may know. There's not too many people that I want to shout out here necessarily. The Magistrate is played by Jean-Louis Trintignant.
We're doing our best, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I'm
Blake
sorry.
and I both had long days.
He's actually regarded as one of the best French dramatic actors of all time. He is in the movies from the 80s and 90s, Three Colors Red and City of Lost Children, both movies that we have not done this podcast, but I've actually pitched to you, I think, at various points in time. Jacques Perrin is the guy who's playing the Nightcrawler, like, reporter.
Click, click, click.
And he actually plays Thomas Dapacher, the old guy version of him, in Brotherhood of the Wolf from 2001, which is a werewolf movie. Shout out to Byron, if you're listening, my guy.
Hey, Byron.
He recommended that I watch this movie. Apparently, it's a really good cult film that we haven't touched on yet on this podcast, but I still haven't seen it yet, my dude, but maybe someday. I also just want to shout out that two of the main villains of this movie, or henchmen, maybe as you want to call them, Vago and Iago. So Iago's the driver. Vago, played by Marcel Bozzoufi. He's the one who does the hitting.
There's a lot of whacking in this movie, I will say.
I think that guy is one of the best actors of this film.
I agree. He's the guy who's kind of balding too, right?
Yeah. He's like very charismatic, but also like makes your skin crawl evil.
Yeah, like I was kind of, we'll talk more about this in the deep dive, but like there's a scene where he's kind of being interrogated with his lawyer, and he's just being very like blasé about everything, and I'm like, I was literally like, oh, like this is what sociopaths are like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is what the bad guys in real life look like.
Yeah.
They're just normal looking dudes who don't give a shit about anyone else.
What I found really interesting, kind of reading into him a little bit, is he actually was the voice dubber for Charles Bronson and Paul Newman in France.
Cool.
And this movie was directed by Costa-Gavras, or Gavras, who is a Greek-French filmmaker. This is one of a trilogy of political thrillers he made, the second one being The Confession and the third one being State of Siege. Both are pretty well renowned as well.
Okay.
He also won Best Picture or Best Adapted Screenplay for a movie called Missing from 1982 that stars Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek.
Huh.
So
okay.
pretty prominent Greek-French filmmaker. So when to watch, this is typically like a Sunday night kind of movie, but honestly, it's so big and exciting that this is a blockbuster film that like I could watch on a Saturday night. I honestly could watch this pretty much any night.
I also feel like there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
There was so much going on that even now I'm kind of like, I think there's stuff, I need to see this movie again because there's definitely stuff I missed.
Yes.
You know, so it's kind of, you got to watch this sober, okay?
Yeah.
By the way, I was reading Letterboxd reviews and there was one from, I forget, I think like 2022.
Mm-hmm.
All the guy wrote was not a good idea to watch stoned.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, this is a very aggressive, paranoid movie, and I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
So where to watch? You can stream it on Criterion if you have the subscription there because it's part of the Criterion collection.
Yeah.
I also just rented this one on Apple. I'll probably end up buying it because I liked it that much. If this is one of those movies that like I think about buying it because I'm like, nobody's ever going to watch this movie or go stream it on Apple or like get a Criterion. But I need somebody else other than you and me to have seen this movie so that I could talk about it all the time.
That's right. Maybe we'll start a Patreon tier where people who have seen it can call in and we'll talk to them about it.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie's awesome. And I think that's it for the primer episode. You have anything else you want to talk about before we move along?
Nope. Just
we kept this tight because I just really want to talk about this movie in a spoiler-full discussion.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, we will see you next time then for the deep dive. God, I hope you go and see this movie.
Yep. Don't get clubbed.
Okay.